Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our community awareness program. If I could get everyone to stand, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I have some news for you. Our presenter for today for the Veterans Affair is sick and just called me and said she is not attending, and she didn't send anybody. So we're going to kind of wing it a little bit, and I see that there are quite a few vets out there, and I would like for you to come up here and tell a little bit about yourself and where you served. At least you'll be able to have some input here. So if you have been in the service, if you have served, Woody, would you like to be first? So we'll just go back and forth here, and we'll just have everybody give a little bit of information about yourself. So at least you have, I'm giving you something here, and then I've got another speaker that will give you something else.
Hello. I don't know how I get picked for all these things all the time, eh? Okay, I'm Woody Catalano. I've lived here in Sun Lakes for 24 years. I went into the Marine Corps right out of high school, 17 years old, 1952. I served in Korea from October 1953 from January 1953 to October 1953. And then I got transferred over to Middle Camp Fuji, Japan with the 3rd Marine Division. I spent 2 years there, but while I was there, I was on different cruises. I was in Formosa, which is now Taiwan. We only knew it as French Indochina. We were off the coast on ships with the 7th Fleet. I didn't know it was Vietnam at that time, but that's clear back in 1954. And back in then, you didn't have CNN and all these other kind of things. The French were fighting the Vietnamese at Dien Bien Phu. Something had happened, and a whole 7th Fleet went off the north coast of Hanoi. And I was on a troop ship off that coast. We never went into land, never did anything. And I never heard anything about it, that happening. But apparently because, I guess the French, how they got involved with the United States government, which none of us ever knew anything was going on. I'm only 18 years old at this time, too, so I didn't know anything that was going on in Oron. Also, while I was in Japan in I think it was either 1955, I think. I'm not really, my memory's not that good. I'm 87 years old, so kind of losing a little bit. But I was off the straits of, it was called Kemoematsu Islands of Formosa. And back in either 54 or 55, the Chinese were shooting artillery shells into those 2 islands. And the 7th Fleet came in, and we were evacuating people on a small carrier called the Thetis Bay, and also on the Yorktown. And we were taking people off the island and bringing them onto the ship. And I can remember one morning, it was just a few ships. When we arrived, I had no idea where we were at. And we went up on board the ship on deck, and I looked out there, and all of a sudden, I'd never seen so many ships in my whole life. The whole 7th Fleet moved in, battleships and everything, and the Chinese quit shooting artillery in at that time. If you look in the history books, it's in certain places, but you never heard anything about this at all, but this actually happened back in those days. Everything was secret. And I remember, I went through boot camp at San Diego, went over to Camp Pendleton. Camp Pendleton, we had high altitude training, cold weather training up at Pickle Meadows. I had desert training out of 29 Palms. And then when we were done, we were given a small leave, went back to the base, and all of a sudden we were secured for 2 weeks. And we weren't allowed to write letters. We weren't allowed to call our families or anything like that. Put on, we called them cattle wagons, trucks, trucked down to San Diego, got on a ship, headed out to sea. 14 days later, I had no idea where I was at until we went into Pusan. And that's about my story, nothing to do.
If you're shy and you don't want to come up here, I can bring the mic to you. Do you want to say anything? What branch you were in at least?
I was.
Just say what branch you were. Give your name. and say what branch.
I'm Don Hodgkinson. I served 4 years in the Marine Corps. 4 years. 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 From 1967 to 1971 in the U.S. Navy, I spent 3 years aboard the USS Ranger, aircraft carrier sitting off the coast of Vietnam.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name's Jim Wilkie. You hear the accent, you wonder why I'm here. I emigrated to the United States when I was 20, and then I served in the U.S. Army, where I made Staff Sergeant, mostly in Fort Polk, Louisiana, where everybody went when they wished they were in Vietnam. After I got out of the Army, I got my degree, and I served as a senior special agent with the U.S. government for 30 years, mostly overseas. Can't talk about it. And married, had a great event this week, had 2 great-grandchildren born this week, and I got to hold them yesterday, so I'm a happy dude. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'm Bill Rayner, and I was in the Army from '69 to '71. I did basic and AIT in Fort Polk, yeah, and spent some time in Nam.
Thank you, Bill.
My name is Hal Pitt. I was in the Marine Corps from 70 through 72. Never went to Vietnam. I was in dispersing, paying all the Marines and the Navy folks, and that's my story.
Thank you.
I'm Phil Jackson. I probably got one of the strangest stories to tell. I graduated from the University of Michigan in '65 with degrees in mechanical engineering. I was happily employed by Cummins Diesel as an engineer. When I got nervous about being drafted, found out there was a way to get a direct commission. So I called the Pentagon, and I was told, yeah, we can commission you, pick our armor, artillery, or infantry when you send you the form. They sent me the form. I filled out engineer, engineer, engineer. I was offered a commission in quartermaster, which I happily took. But I was commissioned over the phone out of civilian life. They had trouble getting my orders to me, so finally they said, report to Fort Hood, Texas. Your orders will be awaiting for you. I sat at Fort Hood for 5 days before they could find my orders, which meant I couldn't draw a uniform until I got the orders. I spent every day of my active duty 2 years at Fort Hood, Texas. A couple of TDY trips elsewhere in the country, but never left the country. And so that was '66 to '68 I was in. When I got out, I went to work for the Army as a civilian for another 34 years after that. So.
Over here.
I didn't wear my uniform today, but I'm a proud Navy wife. I'm Bev Kreider, and my husband was only in the service for 4 years. He'd gone to Officers Candidate Training School in Newport, Rhode Island, and then was put on one of the oldest ships in the Navy, an oiler. And I'm telling you a story just because he really did, in that time, he had several storms in the Pacific, and one of the worst was near Guam, and his ship was the only one in the area. So instead of refueling other ships, they ported and brought critically ill patients aboard the oiler and made a quick medical area, and other men took water and food and as much as they could to the people on the island. While he was out working on that, I was back ready to deliver our daughter, and he was stationed in San Francisco at that time. I was living in Hayward, and I knew the baby was about to come, so I waited till morning and called a neighbor and said, can you take me to the Naval Hospital? The Naval Hospital did not have any maternity, but that was where I was to report. So I did, and I was put in the ER with some drunk sailors in the bed next to me over here, and I was going into labor, and the nurse said, you might as well stop yelling. It's going to be a while yet, and this is the only spot we have for you. So my daughter was born fine. And I'm telling you this because it was the time of the crisis in the Atlantic, and all ships were on radio silence. So Bob didn't know that he had a daughter. But in those days, we didn't know if it was a boy or girl. But he didn't know he had, and it was about 5 weeks, and thanks to the Red Cross, they were the only ones that were able to get a message through that a child had been born, and we were fine. And so I was doing my little part at the Naval Hospital, and to this day, my daughter turned 60 this week, and she still is a Raiders fan because she was born at Naval Hospital in Oakland.
I can't beat that. I was drafted into the Army in 1957. I served 16 months in Korea. Subsequent to my discharge, I joined the LAPD, where I retired 20 years and 20 minutes later.
Mike Moore, Navy 69 to 73. I was on a hospital ship outside of Da Nang for 18 months. If any of you were ever on the hospital ship Sanctuary, I was on there. That's it.
Okay, let's see. Were you in the service, my dear? Okay, I don't want to miss any women.
Okay. Hi, I'm Barney Charbonneau. I've been in the military a lot of years. I was in the Army first 3 years. I was in Fort Knox, Kentucky, went to Fort Stewart, Georgia, and then went to Germany. And I was engineers, but in the engineers, I was a 62 K-20 grader operator. And when I got out of the Army, I went in the Navy Reserve for a little while, the Seabees, equipment operator for the Seabees. And then I got a job at March Air Force Base, and the other operator there, he talked me into the Air Force Reserve. So I joined the Air Force Reserve, and I was in civil engineering, heavy equipment, and learned a lot. And like I said, it's just been a real experience of me being in the military. You know, and I'm retired at Air Force right now. I got the ID card. I'm having kind of trouble with the VA right now. I got some problems with me, but we're making it. So, but. Like I said, I went to Germany and had a good time, and I just went all over the world with the reserves. So here's my wife.
He had a lot of fun in the reserves. So, military has been great for us. So I hope everybody enjoyed their time as military.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
I'm Luther Daniels. I went in the Army and got drafted in 1964, and they closed down Fort Ord, so they sent everybody to Fort Polk, Louisiana. And everybody know about Louisiana. You got everything down there you can think of. And I had an experience down there, and then they sent me to Fort Sam Houston for medical training. From there, I went to New York, and they sent me over a ship, 7 days on the water, to Germany, and I ended up in Bamberg, Germany. And I spent time there, and then I went to Nuremberg for TD White at the hospital. Then back, worked at the postal dispenser. Oh, yeah. One time we had delivered a baby on the way going back to Nuremberg from Bamberg. And the lady, she was like 30 days over, past her due date. Like she was going to bust out. I got out in '66, and that's my time in the military. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I always get embarrassed when they ask me to step up because I'm a veteran, but I taught doctors to water ski, play tennis, play golf, that sort of thing. I'll go a little more. I was an Air Force officer, Medical Service Corps. I was at Eglin Air Force Base, and I was a CFO, Chief Financial Officer. I was a personnel director, but my most interesting job besides the doctors, and I'll explain that in a second, was I was a patient squad commander, and we had a psychiatric unit right next door to where they put the test block for the jet engines. And when they set them off, I had a whole my crew trying to find if they're all still in the building. And one of them hid up in the rafters for about 3 weeks, and his mother was very upset because he figured out how to call her from there. But anyway, that was the teaching of the doctors was that towards my last tour of duty, they had too many doctors to process through the training course at Gunner Air Force Base, so they sent them to me. But they sent them to me for a week to tell them to where the railroad tracks or their major bars. Well, it took me 2 days to teach them what they needed to know who to salute, and so I spent the rest of the time teaching them sports because I had them for a whole week.
Thank you, Bob.
Hi, my name is Rick Kaminsky. I was drafted into the Army in 1967. Spent 68 and 69 in Vietnam with the 101st Airborne. I was real lucky. Didn't get medevaced out until 1 week before I was due to come home anyway. But we've got quite a few military in our families. Her dad was in the Air Force, Army Air Reserve. My dad was in the Navy. My youngest son was in the Navy. My oldest son was in the Navy. My youngest son just retired after 21 years in the Air Force, and he was a B-1 and B-2 bomber pilot. And now he's flying in United Airlines, but he's not dropping anything on anybody.
Thank you. Well, we just had 2 newcomers that just came in. So you have to tell us a little bit about yourselves and your military.
Hello, I'm Scipia Ruth Kendall Curtis, and I spent just over 40 years in the military, in the Air Force. So they call me a Mustang because I'm prior enlisted, and I spent 13 years enlisted as a laboratory technician at March Air Reserve Base. Then I became an officer and was an officer for 28 years. Also at March Reserve Base. So lots of years, retired 2017, and then recently it'll be my retirement. It'll be a year coming up, November 30th, as a civil servant, also at March. During my career, enlisted, like I said, I was a laboratory technician, and as an officer, I worked for the wing commander most of my tour, and so I supported guys like my husband, who's a pilot. I was the comm commander, executive officer. I also taught Lean Six Sigma, which is about process improvement, in my last time as a civil servant. So there you go in a nutshell.
Well, like the gentleman a little bit earlier, I almost got drafted into the Army in 1970, I think it was, and decided I'd rather do it a different way if I was going to serve my country, so I joined the Air Force, and that turned into a 31-year career. And for the better part of it, I flew C-141 transports, so I got to see 6 out of 7 continents and do a lot of things. Like most of us, there's a few things you can't talk about, but but it was a good life, and met a lot of great people, and wouldn't have traded it for anything else.
Were you in the service? Oh, we have another lady that was in the service here. I'm sorry, I missed you.
That's okay. Hi, my name is Addie Boudreau. I was an Air Force nurse for 20 years. I had a lot of assignments, probably about 9 around the world. And it was a wonderful life. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I met a lot of people, and I got out single. So that's it. No, I could write a book, but it takes too long here to talk about it.
Did you serve in the service, sir? Just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you did.
Okay. My name is Billy Thompson. I was in the Army in 1968, 69. I was in Vietnam. I was part of the 199th Light Infantry Brigade. I did my tour, my stench, and came out of it more or less in one piece, except for Agent Orange, which probably affected a lot of us. Have complications, and basically that's about all I can really say.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I want to thank everyone for their service. I'm going to also let my husband talk because he was in the service also. Also, to let you know, we have a grandson that is he's in the Army, and he is a firefighter in the Army. And we're very, very proud of him. My dad was in the Air Force, but my husband was in the Army.
Well, I was in the Army for 2 years, 62 to 64, and I was a cryptographer. I was stuck at the duty station of Schofield Barracks, Hawaii for 2 years. Luckily, I served right before Vietnam started. We did a little advisor going over to Southeast Asia, but never actually, no conflict, no fighting at that particular time. The service really helped me because when I got out, I used the GI Bill to go to college, and get a degree and a career. And the same thing happened to to our son and grandson. Son went to the Army and used his benefits to go to school when he went to medical school. He's a medical doctor in the Navy, and our grandson is also in medical school in the Navy. So it really turned my life and our life around. And without the military service being available, I would probably not be here, that's for sure. So let's go ahead with the rest of the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for your service to our country. So now I'm going to introduce Hernan Rojas. He has put together for our community awareness the cleanup that we did over on the north side. So I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about it.
Hello, Sun Lakers. Hoa. I see Screaming Eagles here today. That's awesome. Hoa. Before I go any further, I want to salute your veteran's favorite veteran, Mr. Bob Murray, who's in the back right now doing my job. Without him, I wouldn't be here. He makes my life here a lot easier. I, too, am a veteran. I served 2002 to 2006, 2-6 Infantry Battalion out in Germany. I was boots on the ground for Operation Iraqi Freedom. And just like my drill sergeant told me back in the day, war is beautiful. I looked at him like he was crazy, but, as doing a tour out there, I knew what he meant. I want to salute every one of you. And now let me get started with this. Okay. My name is Hernan Rojas, like Michelle said. I am your social media specialist here. And this day, I got tasked out to go get some footage of 3 outstanding agencies that are, I think the cleanup is done already, right? Well, I captured them cleaning up the homeless area encampment right next to Hole 4. The 3 agencies was Caltrans, Union Pacific Railroad, and Banyan PD. So let me stop talking because I'll probably go on forever, and let me show you what I captured. One more thing, Bob, I hope you got my good side.
So you can see all the trash. You can see Caltrans there. You can see Banning Police Department and Union Pacific. So this is right over on the other side of the railroad tracks where you had You could see the homeless encampments there, and they were down in that gully. We had a fire there 2 weeks ago? About 3 weeks ago, there was a fire over there. And then we had the rains right after that, so I don't know if some of that got washed out. But there was a lot of traffic that day too, so they had to be careful. And Hernan did this with a drone. So this is how we were able to get this footage. So we're going to do some questions and answers. So if you have any questions regarding the homeless encampment, please let me know. I don't know what to ask you, so you can ask me a question. Or I have a board member here also. Oh, and you know what? I'm sorry. Before I forget, Anita, would you come up and present? I'm sorry, I went off.
Thank you. I'm Anita Worthen. I'm with the Veterans Expo and the Pass Area Expo, and also a member of the Riverside County Veterans Advisory Committee. I'm also on Congressman Ruiz's Veterans Group, and basically we know we do a lot for veterans. My husband was in the Army, and he did pass from complications of Agent Orange because he was there in Vietnam, did a lot. So in his honor and everyone else's honor, I do everything I can to help the veterans. But what we also know is not only do the veterans or people in the military serve, your family serves along with you. So ours is, and this Bob has given this out to everyone, on Saturday, January the 21st, 10 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there will be a Veterans Expo and put on by the Pass Area. So this will be held at the Beaumont Civic Center. We always have these. Actually, we had gone until our 10th one, but then the pandemic came, and so we haven't done anything in the last 2.5 to 3 years. So now we're starting again. We always have representatives there from all the departments of the VA. We already have applications in, so questions that you have, or if you want to know anything about the benefits for families and just for me, like we found a lot of people who are actually, the spouses did not know the benefits that you are entitled to. So it's a real learning experience, educational experience, and a social experience. The Lions Club always there to give us some little hot dogs and food. So, and we have people from all over that come as far as Palm Springs up. So this will be something that would be very beneficial for you. We'll have these flyers out, and thank you for all your service, and that goes for the military, the actual veterans, the families, and the friends. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Anita. So does anybody have any questions regarding the homeless, anything that we can answer, your concerns, or you do need to speak in the mic because they're filming this.
Well, my concern is, why do we always see the homeless hanging out under the bridges and by the railroad tracks? More so than, is it because it's government property or it's private property? So that's why they're, and the police can't touch them there?
Okay, so on the railroad tracks, that is owned all by Union Pacific. So we really can't go in there. Banning PD is now getting a right of entry so that they can go in there. They must give them 72 hours notification before they remove them. And then once they give them the 72 hours, then they're able to arrest them or get them going on down the road. Right.
I think I know the answer to this, but I was just coming back
maybe an hour ago, and that underpass of the railroad tracks on Highland Springs, apparently there's a whole bunch of garbage right there, and it looks like something that had wheels on it, a piece of wood was broken, and the cart was upside down, and I think we probably call the police for that. I'm not sure.
I can call the police for that. I have not seen it, so if you would like to call them, because I haven't actually been there to see it. I mean, I guess I could go over there and look at it. But I would say go ahead and call the police department and let them know. It's probably dangerous for having all that there anyway. It's heading. You know what? I saw it when we were going to church yesterday that it was, there's tons of trash. And I don't know if it's the wind or somebody has been moved and they've just left their belongings right there, and then everything is just thrown around. So I would go ahead and contact the police department. Oh, just.
Thank you, because I saw the same thing. I was just coming around the corner, and it looks like a shopping carts with a lot of infamy, a whole kind of trash and stuff in it, and it's 2 or 3 of them, and one is kind of turned over. So I thought the police would be here today to let them know, but it is dangerous because when you're going through and getting ready to get on the freeway, it's right there. So it could blow, and then on the other side of Highland Springs, there's a garbage can. So basically, both of the police agencies need to be called.
Bob, did you have something you wanted to?
Just to go on with what you were commenting about, the Union Pacific has what distance from the tracks? How far? I know, but how far did they go out for the property, from the tracks? 25 feet? Okay. Some of that is going to be probably, how often can they get out there? Or do we? I know we had one meeting where we have a phone number we could call. Right. Okay. So it's and we get it's farther out. It's the city, right? I mean, but I mean. Okay. Okay. They own the on-ramps too? All the way to the on-ramps? So why don't they fix the on-ramps, you know? I was gonna.
Hey, Michelle,
Oh,
can you use
the
the
dirt
microphone?
beside, the dirt beside the.
Michelle, use the microphone. Go up to the podium.
Yes, I know. Union Pacific owns all of that property. We thought it originally was just 25 feet. It isn't. They own all of it. That's why it would be trespassing for us to go on there. So we can't go on there. So I'm going to have Lieutenant Roman come up. He is with Securitas, and he's going to be able to give us some more information. That'll help.
Yeah, that'll be easier so you can walk around. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jonathan Roman. I'm one of the security managers here for Sun Lakes. I'm the lieutenant here, filling in for our director, Michael Romero. I'm sure you all remember him from last time. Once again, as a young veteran, I just want to say thanks to all my older veterans. I served from 2012 to 2020 as a combat medic and then as an intelligence analyst. So I like to think I've seen a couple of different things in the Army.
Very nice.
So I'll try and keep this brief. This is just a quick detail about what's happened over the last month or so. The last week of October, we had an attempted robbery that took place off of Riviera. We were alerted by a family member who got an alert from the ADT security service. So as soon as they let us know, we sent our patrol down there and they investigated and they found out somebody had broken in and ransacked the place. But because of the security alert, they actually had cameras inside the property and they were able to identify who it was. Oh, wow. So there's an ongoing investigation involved there, but That's why it's so important to have security systems and cameras inside. I know it feels a little unnerving sometimes, having camera over your shoulder, but it does help. On November 1st, we had a vehicle accident that took place on Country Club Drive, just between St. Andrews and Riviera. The resident went up the curb and flipped the car. So the entire car was blocking that lane going towards the main clubhouse. It's pretty bad. Fortunately, there was no major injuries reported, but we did come to find out the resident had some medical impairments. So it just goes to show, if you're on medicine or if you just got out of surgery, have somebody drive you. It's big accidents happen for tiny, tiny reasons, and it's so important. So, but we did manage to get that cleared up within about 2 hours. We were directing traffic going back and forth. As Ms. Walter said, we did have Caltrans go through and clean out the north side. We do have a couple breaches along the fence line that we've been going out to and monitoring. As I'm sure you've seen our patrol vehicles driving out into the desert and then going along the side. So we do try to make a good effort to go back there as much as we can, but every time we go back there, we do see a lot of homeless people. Because of the cleaning and the way some of the things are happening in the city, they're moving onto private property, but the problem is the owner of that property might not necessarily care. So we just have to try and make sure we're secure, we're safe, otherwise they're gonna see us as easy targets and they're gonna come after us. So my team has been instructed to monitor that whole area as much as we can inside and outside the community. Along with that, the RV lot is always an area that we try and keep a close eye on. Because of how close it is and how high the wall is, it does make easier for some people to try and sneak in, but we keep an eye out as much as we can. So if you do ever see anything odd, strange, something that just doesn't look right in the RV lot, give us a call. We'll send somebody down there, we'll check our cameras, we'll verify who's inside there, and we'll try and figure out what's going on. On November 14th, Gate 1, I don't know if any of you have noticed, but it was damaged pretty severely. A big truck tried to drive through, but it was driving too fast, and he wasn't experienced enough. So when he made the turn, it got caught and did a lot of damage. But we are in the process. We already have the approval for the repair of the gate itself, so that should be done in the next few weeks. But if anyone does know, if anyone asks questions, that's what happened with that situation. If you have any other further questions, you can reach out to our security department. And then speeding. Speeding has become I'll get to you in a second, sir.
Is there insurance pay for it, or do we pay for it?
So the company that owns the truck, they're the ones that are paying for the repair. So nothing from us. And along with that, we've been having a lot of people speed through the gates. And we try and stop everybody and let them know, slow down, there are speed limits in place. We've had numerous gate arms broken at the gates, as I'm sure you've seen. And it's becoming a very difficult problem for us to solve, because when we try and talk to people, oh, well, you guys need to do better. They start getting confrontational, and it's difficult for us to control the situation sometimes. So please talk to your guests, talk to your family members, and let them know that it's important that they follow the speed limits. We've been having a lot of issues with speeding. So,
Lieutenant, when they break an arm, are they responsible for it?
yes. Yes, sir. Okay, I think that pretty much completes my report.
Okay, we're going to have, if you would mind answering
I
a
can
few
take
questions.
Sure.
I don't even remember the date, but we came through Gate 5 one evening, and there was one of those white box trucks parked on the north side of the
gate.
The gate, on the outgoing side of the gate, and he whipped around and he came through and broke the arm. And we live on Turnberry. He came. We saw him come down Turnberry. I called our security, and they said there was nothing they could do.
I'm not too sure about that situation. It's a little difficult because we have to watch the camera footage and find out exactly who owns the truck and that kind of thing. But if you do ever see anything like that, definitely call us and let us know if you, like, if there's, were they, because most likely they were speeding, correct?
They were speeding, correct? They were speeding? Oh.
Okay.
And they just went right through?
I saw them coming down Turnberry, no, before I closed the door. And then they must have turned around somewhere on Litchfield and came back, and I don't know where they went from there.
Did you report it?
I did. And they said there wasn't anything they could do. I reported it to our security, and they said, well, we can't do anything about it. Can I ask one other question?
Sure.
They're talking about closing the gate at 10 o'clock in the evening. I would appreciate that, because we have a commitment twice a week, and we come in after like 10:15, and we would hate to have to come through the front gate.
It may feel like a little bit of inconvenience, but it's going to be a safety factor at the very end. Do you want to answer that question? You have to come over here. Everybody has to follow the rules.
That's up for review. They're going to decide that in January. Hasn't been determined as of yet for another reading. But there had been a request because of concerns about people coming in the evening, and so they were going to close down the gates, gate 6, gate 5, and gate 3,
and 4.
the unmanned gates, and it was for our protection. So it remains to be seen as to whether or not we're going to approve that. We'll make that determination in January based upon input from the membership here. But it is set for consideration.
How are they getting in late at night without the access sticker? Because 6 and 5, you need, after 3 o'clock on 5 and all
Well,
the
they're
time at 6.
sneaking in behind another vehicle. And the concern is that we want to be safe. There's been issue here, when you consider Larry B. Smith Detention Facility in Banning, houses 1,500 inmates. When they get released, they don't all go home. I mean, I don't want to make you nervous, but I'm just saying the facts of life. They don't all go home. So I want to make sure our community is protected as much as it can be by, closing gates when we can, having enhanced patrol, more patrol from Banning PD than we've had in the past. They now do the perimeter that they've never done before. So, this is one of the board's priorities, is to make sure our entire community, our VLOT and the entire community is safe. So that's the reason for that. But it hasn't been determined yet on closing those gates yet. It's still up for, for reading and up for consideration. So just let your delegate know, or let us know what your position is on that.
A question came up, if you close the gates, will that prevent the emergency vehicles coming through those gates?
It will not.
So they'll be able to get
Yes.
through?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
They can open the gate.
They'll also have that Omnicrom device that they're going to be able to get
Now-
in and out.
Now, one thing I would like to mention is that I would like to thank this Community Awareness Committee and what they've done. I've been here 19 years, we've never had collaboration of Caltrans, Union Pacific, and Banning PD go there, and they clear them out. If you go over there, they're gone. They may find another place somewhere, but all those encampments, they're gone. There's nobody there. And it was a result of this committee prodding those agencies. So I would like to, all of the members here of that committee, stand up. I would like to give them recognition. Stand up, please. Are you on the committee? Yes, you are.
Virginia?
Stand up, please.
Karen?
Stand up. Yeah. I would
Annie,
like to-
where's Annie?
Yeah, I mean, that's an awesome job that, that they have done. And it's the first time since I've been here that I've seen that type of cooperation from other state and local agencies. Yes.
Is there any problem with those little houses that are down there?
You're talking about Opportunity Village
I guess, I don't know.
in Banning?
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, we need them. We need them because if you have them available, now you can either arrest them or put them in jail or deal with them legally, because without having that available, you can't really touch the homeless. I'm not saying that they're all bad people, but many of them do commit crimes, and we have to protect ourselves. And so by having Opportunity Village available, then we can then take appropriate legal action. Without that, we cannot. The police department can't do anything other than just talk to them.
No, I was wondering if there's any problem, increased problem.
Well, the problem could be that they may not have enough space. It's supervised, and they have to follow rules and regulations. And of course, many of those people do not want to follow rules and regulations. So, and it's only 40 beds there available. And there was a lot more than 40. If you saw down by Hargrave, there was hundreds of them. So at least they have that available now, and at least the police can take appropriate action that they could not take in the past.
Any other, Virginia, sorry.
Hi, I'm Virginia Cervantes. First of all, I want to say thank you for putting that wrought iron fence that's there.
Yes.
I think that's something that it may be harder for them to come through, but it was desperately needed.
And we recently did that. We put 80 feet of wrought iron fence that makes it more difficult for them to cut through, break, or climb over. And as time goes on, we may include more of that.
I think that would be best, because there was an incident where they backed up a truck and knocked down the chain link fence and taking things out of
Yes.
people's patios. But even though all of that is clean and that's good, we still need to be aware that the homeless may still come back around, especially during the cold. So if you have propane tanks, because I've had mine stolen before, if you have anything in your patio that needs to be put in the garage or on the other side of your house, please do that. Otherwise, now that it's winter, they're going to try to keep warm. They're going to do everything they can to keep warm, because a lot of that stuff, when myself and Michelle witnessed, they were taking furniture out of those gullies. They were taking chair pads, things like that, patio items. And during the fire, myself with my other neighbors, we were hearing the propane tanks blow up. So please, people, if you live nearby the golf course, or even if you don't, these people are not afraid. A lot of them are addicts. So they're going to do whatever they can for themselves.
Good point. You
Also-
have to take responsibility for yourself, at your own home and your own area.
So one question I want to ask you, Bob. Can you, with the board, be able to put in the magazine one time the rules in order for people to have security lights and security cameras? I do know that on Amazon, you can buy a light bulb that's motion detector light bulb, and you just take out the old light bulb, put in the new one, and just keep your switch on. It'll come on. We have them. But as far as cameras, I know as far as some neighbors maybe be closed, what is going to be the rules and the process for someone getting cameras?
Yes, we can post that. My concern is safety is more priority over whether the light is too bright or whether you might take someone else's picture. My concern is our safety, and we may have to change some of the existing rules. But in the meantime, obey the rules that we have.
I'm Fran Rayner. I have two very different questions. Drones, is it possible for Securitas or Sun Lakes to have use drones to help? There's a whole lot of property to look at, and yes, we have an RV in.
So the question was if we could use drones. So we've actually looked into this a couple of different times. The problem is that we would need a very specific license, and it's very expensive. So it's not something that would be feasible because of FFA laws, FAA laws. FAA.
The second question isn't quite on this topic, but during the awards, when Charity Week was handing out the awards, one of the groups, and I can't remember whether it was, now I'm going to forget everything, Carol's Kitchen, one with the L. No, that doesn't begin with an L, but that would work. One of them gives, among other things, you know, a blanket and something, and a tent. And a tent triggers, that's where they're getting tents from. Is that really a good idea? Can we influence them and say, hey, let's, you know, providing a tent just as inviting people in our backyard? Thank you.
This is really difficult when you have organizations that are out there to try and help people get off the streets. I understand about the tents, but they need some place to go. They need some place to have cover over themselves. Is it in our gully back here? No. But I don't know how to answer that. It's just very difficult when you've got a lot of these service groups that really want, their hearts go out and they're being compassionate and they're trying to do the best that they can. Yes, we know that 97% of the homeless people are addicts or they are mental health issues. It would be great if we had rehab places to put them in, but guess what? They have to want to go there. And if they don't want to go there, we can't force them. So that's the other issue that we have. I mean, the police department is trying to give them certain areas and certain places to go to, but if they don't want to go, they're not going to go. Any other questions? No? Okay, well, I'm going to let you know we are going to be dark. Community awareness is going to be dark in December because of all the events and holiday parties that are going on in the ballroom in different places. But we are going to have our next one in January. It's January 3rd, 1 to 3 o'clock. We had to change our meeting dates. We normally had them on Thursday, then I had them on Monday. They're going to be the first Monday afternoon of every month from now on. And so our next one is going to be CHP, Safe Driving for Seniors. I actually happened to go to this class at Four Seasons. It's a terrific class. Officer Montez is going to be doing the presentation. If you finish the presentation, you can take your certificate, and I actually happened to get a little certificate, and you can take that to your insurance company and possibly get a good discount for having taken this. So this will be going out to each of the district delegates, and I'll have some flyers out once I get my flyer made. And again, this is going to be on January 3rd from 1 to 3 o'clock here in the main ballroom. And there's no cost to this class. Officer Montez is coming over here and doing it. And he even says it's the tips and tricks even for golf carts. So he's got a lot of different information to give you based on not just your car. But let me tell you, some of the tips that he gave me, I was just like, I didn't even think about that. So it's going to be a great presentation, Officer Montez. So again, that's going to be on the 3rd of January from 1 to 3 here in the main ballroom. So again, I apologize for our veteran lady not being able to show up, but she was sick and she didn't get me a replacement. But I thank everybody that showed up.